Normally when I'm chatting to you, I have at least some bullet pointed notes that I work off. Come on, you guys try doing reviews of movies in 1 minute. But to start this week, I'm going to go off script and just speak from the heart on an emotional subject because last night, Ireland continued their curse of being knocked out in the quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup, and we lost 28-24 to New Zealand for the second World Cup running, stopping us at the quarterfinal stage. And I finally know how it feels to be a Mayo fan. This is sickening. It's heartbreaking. And I'm trying not to be hyperbolic over this, but I can't remember in a year where, I watched the Eagles go from almost certain victory to defeat in the Super Bowl. And, I've had years of pain as a Man United fan, but I can't remember a sporting loss that has stung me quite as bad as what happened this weekend. And I'll tell you a bit why, and I'm not breaking any news here, but I think I need to say it, and I think we need to hear it. The reason, obviously, is because, look, this was the one. This was the World Cup where we not only could have won, because we've had that happen before and, again, gone out every time at the quarterfinals. This is the one we should have won. This is the one where we were the best team. And this is the one where, up to Saturday night, we did everything perfectly. And we did everything that could have been asked of us. It's Johnny Sexton's and the likes of Keith Earl's last Ireland match. And it's just deflating. And I'll tell you why it's deflating. It's not just that we lost. And it's not just that we didn't play to our best. And I think it's important that we put it out there, because there is an instinct that I loathe when discussing Irish sport of kind of looking on the bright side. Nah, sure, look, didn't they do great and stuff like that? And I hate that. I hate feeling like a glorious loser as an Irish sports fan. And it makes sense to a point to do it with some sports. Like with football, it's the biggest sport on the planet. We're never realistically going to be in a position to win a World Cup or European Championship unless some kind of miracle happens or we get some prodigious Lionel Messi style talent who plays for us and doesn't have a backdoor into play for England like Declan Rice or Jack Grealish. It's never going to happen. So the most we can ever hope for is, going on a run, getting to a quarterfinal as we have before, or maybe even a semi-final of a major football championship, and being proud of ourselves when we go down with fight. That is probably best case scenario any of us Irish football fans are ever going to see. We can have success and have done in the likes of the Olympics with individual sports like boxing or swimming or athletics, because they rely on individuals and you can get a talent who can just overcome all the odds. And that can happen. But when it comes to world-based team sports where there's a relatively high participation and you can have a World Cup style event, rugby is it for us. It really is. Unless they start a GAA World Cup and then we just slaughter everyone just to make ourselves feel better. But I don't see what's in it for the rest. It's probably rugby. But also, in saying that, we are a small nation. We rely on those kind of once in a generation talents like Johnny Sexton. We've got lucky in 2 generations that we had first Brian O'Driscoll and Johnny Sexton, but it's not a guarantee that these people are just going to come along. And we're doing amazingly in the infrastructure to replace these talents and to keep competitive, because there's been Rugby World Cup cycles before where we felt like, oh, this is it. This is the end. But you can go an entire lifetime without winning these things. Like, people can live their whole lives and never, ever see us come close. And that's what hurts here, because we were the best team in the competition. We're the best team on the planet. We're better than New Zealand. And we've beaten them in recent history. We've got the monkey off our backs. Granted, this quarterfinal is a new monkey on our back. And hopefully, I hope to be sitting before you 4 years from now going, we did it, guys. We finally beat New Zealand in a World Cup quarterfinal. But I don't know. Something just doesn't sit well with me when you look at why this keeps happening. It's different players, it's different managers, it's different setups. All the variables are different. And I logged on to Twitter last night when I'm coming home, still just angry and disheveled and frustrated and crushed to a point from watching the game. And I turn on Twitter. I'm still going to call it Twitter. But I turn it on and I see people being like, look, heroes all, they still did great. We should be proud of them. They did as best as they can do, and so on and so forth. And look, I'm not going to come out and do anything too hyperbolic or have a hot take and turn around and say, sack Andy Farrell, sack the staff, sack the players. You know, I'm not going to turn around and say that our players aren't national heroes and shouldn't be proud of what they've done. They should, and they have. They've worked their asses off, and the achievement that they've done to go on a 20-game win streak and equal the record, it's unbelievable. And it's just a shame that streak didn't encompass a World Cup. But it's the standards we have for ourselves. And I hate to see that creep in to kind of our discourse, because I feel like that standard of, sure, look, they're still heroes and they still did great. And look, aren't we proud of Johnny and stuff like that? And just allowing for defeat. Great sports teams don't do that. And the example I think of is Manchester City. How many years have they won the Premier League and they were pissed off at the end of it that they didn't win the Champions League? Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, these dominant teams who are always there or thereabouts in modern football. And I know Paris Saint-Germain seem like an outlier now, but like over the past few years, they dominated their domestic league and they had the type of team that, again, you would look at and say they should win the Champions League. And they win their domestic league, but they're disappointed in not going the full way. I feel like those are the standards we should have for Irish rugby, because we can have those standards, and we, like, maybe not generation after generation in the same way that New Zealand, South Africa will always be there or thereabouts. You know, maybe, you know, it is a once in a lifetime, but that's what makes it hurt more. And the reality is, I'm not going to turn around and say the players are a disgrace or anything like that. It's not the case, but we knew like 10 minutes into the game, you could see that the tightness and the execution and the belief and the tunnel vision that took us past South Africa and absolutely blitzed Scotland before they even had a chance to get into the game just wasn't there. There was nerves, there was tightness, there was mistakes, and there was just that sinking feeling of a curse. And I did, to be honest, expect us to rally. I did expect us to, when we pulled it back towards the end of the first half, to fight back. And I thought we'd get over the line in the same way France decimated New Zealand in the second half of their game. And it just never happened. And I think a really important, and I retweeted this, I can't remember who tweeted it originally, apologies, but I retweeted this, and it's important to call this stuff out. New Zealand were playing with one less player than us. They didn't just have an amazing game. If they came out and they just woke up and clicked into all black mode, you'd kind of understand it, but they didn't. They were there for the taking. This is not a great New Zealand side. This is a New Zealand side we can beat. We've shown it before. This is a New Zealand side who are coming in kind of a wounded animal. They have some glaring weaknesses, particularly in defense, that we just didn't take advantage of, and we could have. It was there on the table. And when you look at the other game, Argentina beating Wales, but unconvincingly, if we win on Saturday, we're in the final, pretty much as good as confirmed. And I could live I think if we lost the final to either France or South Africa, you'll know by the time you're listening to this, because I'm typing this Sunday afternoon, but whoever makes it from that will probably get to the other final. Although I'd be sick if England ended up making the final after this 4-year cycle. But I could live with getting to the final and losing then, because if you lose to France or South Africa, you're like, yeah, they were just the better team on the day, and that's what this comes down to. And we still have like beaten the hump and got over that quarterfinal, but this just wasn't enough. And for Sexton's Ireland career to end that way, it just sickened me. And it sickened me that we had a fight in the last phase where we're pushing for the try. You know, I got a text from Kento, who'll be on next week to kind of discuss the final and pick the bones of Ireland's campaign. And he's like, 37 phase, perfect play until the end. And we had that fight, but we just didn't have it earlier. And it's all right to acknowledge that. It's okay to be disappointed in that. It's okay for us to have standards. That needs to be what drives the team on, because there's something within this team that at the quarterfinal phase, it's purely mental, because like I said, it happens generation after generation. There's no recurring thread here. There's no one person we can hang the hat on. It just is a mentality thing with this team. And it's partly, I feel, I'm going to be honest, driven by us allowing for that and us saying, aren't they great? Anyway, yes, they are great. Yes, they should be proud of themselves. Yes, Andy Farrell is an excellent coach who has instilled a culture. Like, I was afraid after Joe Schmidt left. I was terrified that that was the peak and we just lost the guy who was the closest, could get us the closest to getting over that line. But Andy Farrell has just rebuilt that and built us back stronger. And I believe he's the man to continue to do the job, but we've got to wait 4 years now and we don't know the team we're going to get. And while we have amazing talents, we don't have yet a natural successor for Johnny Sexton. I really hope one will step up, but that's not a guarantee. Look at football. We had Roy Keane and Paul McGrath. They were the kind of, outlier talents that like were world class and able to bring us on and make Ireland better than the sum of its parts. And then that was kind of replaced by Robbie Keane and Damien Duff. And I think for a while during that period where we were consistently getting to international tournaments, we were like, oh, this is just going to keep happening. And we started to build those standards for ourselves. And then we know now that it just doesn't happen. And now if you look at the Irish football team, who kind of meekly limped to defeat against Greece on Friday, they're just not good enough. And they tried, they played their arses off. They're just not good enough because we're a small country and we need to take advantage of these windows. And I just don't want us to continue the culture of being glorious losers and getting close and then patting ourselves on the back for getting close, because we should be winning it. We should have won this World Cup, or we should have at least made the final. And it's okay to be upset by that. It's okay to be disappointed by that. It's okay to hold the team and the coaching staff to account, but also to hold ourselves to account and saying that, no, we need to expect to win this. We need to go in and demand it, because the players need to have that belief. The coaches need to have that belief. There's a world where they should have gone into last night's game. You always have respect for the All Blacks, but like at the same time, you don't need to be overawed by them. You don't need to change your game plan. We should have gone into last night's game the same way we went into Scotland. We're better than these. Let's just fucking blitz them early on, and let's just take this game by the scruff of the neck and remove all doubt. Everyone is doubting us, and that's what was so positive about that Scotland game and just wasn't there last night. We respected them a bit too much, and we just stumbled out of the blocks. And by the time we got that fight towards the end that may have gotten us over the line, the time had run out and it was just too late. And now the time has run out on Johnny Sexton's career, and the time maybe with that has run out on this golden generation. I really hope that's not the case. But if it's not, then we need to have these expectations and we need to not just settle for quarterfinals. We need to be disappointed. We need to call that out. It doesn't mean that we can't be proud of our team or our players or our coach or everyone that's involved. They've done amazing. But there's something that is stopping us from getting over the line. I think part of that is our mentality as a country and our kind of, low self-confidence and kind of dwindling in the face of, world glory that I think we should be able to step up to, because we have it there. And I'm good, if I'm being honest.